We have the pleasure of welcoming Joey Price today to our interview series. I'm Sumita Mariam from the peopleHum team. Before we begin, just a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year, and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And now for our guest, Joey Price is an award-winning human resources executive, business coach, thought leader, and professor. He is the founder of Jumpstart HR, an HR consulting practice specifically built for small businesses and startups. He also hosts Business Life and Coffee, a weekly personal and professional development podcast. Joey is a recent SHRM Top 30 Under 30 Award winner and one of Forbes magazine's top 100 employee engagement experts in the world, and frequently cited HR and startup thought leader in publications such as Forbes and HR magazine. Welcome, Joey. We're thrilled to have you.
Sumita, I am honored to be here and thank you for including me in your podcast series.
It's our pleasure, Joey. So, going to the questions. The first question I have for you, Joey, is can you tell us a little bit about Jumpstart HR? What was your inspiration to come up with such an idea?
Yes, so Jumpstart HR provides HR outsourcing and consulting for small businesses and startups across the US, as well as multinational corporations that are looking to establish or oversee their US presence. I started the company back in 2011 because I noticed the disconnect between the way that HR was run for small businesses and the way that it was run for mid to larger sized companies. And I asked myself, why is that disconnect there and is it necessary? What I was seeing on the small business front is that HR was really being guided by administrative voices or CEOs or executives who may not have had an intimate understanding of the power and the true potential that HR can bring to your organization. And with that, we were seeing that HR is really just about paperwork, making sure new hires got their health insurance, making sure open enrollment happened on time, making sure people's leave requests were calculated accurately. But there's so much more potential to human resources and the opportunity that it can bring to a small business. And so I wanted to bridge that gap. So providing the administrative services such as recruitment, boarding, being there for employees and doing employee handbooks and policies, but also strategic matters such as, hey, where do we need to expand next? Or where is the best talent for the type of jobs that we're offering? How do we go from a brick and mortar to a remote operation? And what type of talent do we need to make that happen? So that's why I started Jumpstart HR. And over the years, we've had clients in most of the states, and everything from federal contractors that service naval submarines to small batch granola makers to nonprofits, religious institutions, you name it. It's been a fun, diverse years, and I continue to look forward to the future of Jumpstart.
Oh, when you explain the concept of how you started it, it really, helps us understand why the name Jumpstart HR. So that's wonderful. And coming to our next question. So we have the current scenario of the coronavirus. And with respect to what we have right now, how do you think the future workplace is going to look like? So you've been designing this fabulous HR spaces for a lot of small and medium businesses. So all of us are working from home, and what the future holds for us is a surprise. So how do you think the workplace of the future for all of these businesses, small, medium, large, how does it look like?
So I believe that the coronavirus is going to radically change the way that we do business for a lot of the companies who thrived exclusively on being a brick and mortar presence where everyone had to gather together. I think at the very least, there's going to be a need to strengthen emergency plans for how to make the transition well to go to a more remote workforce and a remote way of servicing clients. And I do understand that not all businesses have those capabilities. For example, if you are in warehouse or manufacturing or hospitality, but there's just going to be a more intentional focus of how can we better prepare for and survive and thrive in the midst of a potential pandemic. Because from all accounts, we're hearing that this won't be the last one, and there may even be a wave of ramifications from this for months to come. I'm seeing even rolling lockdowns for the next 18 months. Who knows what is going to happen? So I think that businesses are going to need to have better emergency planning and how to respond. I also think that the coronavirus is providing an opportunity for employers to really show that they value their employees. If you really get down to the bottom of it, we are all experiencing a vulnerable moment, a stressful, high anxiety moment from the CEO to the intern. And for smart business leaders, they're really going to connect on that human level. And that's what's going to separate the companies that weather the storm and their best people leave, and those companies who weather the storm and the best people stay. So a high commitment to employee experience, a high commitment to connecting to the individuals that work with you on a personal is really going to be important. And hopefully that doesn't change when this is all over and things go back to, I can't say they'll go back to normal, but when things lighten up a little bit and we're not confined in our houses.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I was reading an article the other day, and they were saying that, the most important and the most frequent question that candidates are going to be asking organizations are that how did you manage during the crisis? How many people did you lay off during the crisis? How did you manage your employees during the crisis? So I think that's a very important point. And also, like we are all working remotely right now. So how would you advise, leaders or say HRs to keep up the engagement of employees while they're working from home? They're all of them are in like different cities or different houses, different localities. How can you keep all of them engaged?
Samitha, I love that you asked that question. And it's one of the things that even I've had to ask myself as a leader of a team, and how can I make the most of engagement? And so what's worked for me so far is making sure that I'm communicating every day with my team in a Slack channel, just to say, hey, I acknowledge you. You're not somewhere off in a faraway land that I no longer want to talk to you. I still value conversation with you that has nothing to do with work, but everything about how did your weekend go? What were you excited about? And what, new recipes are you trying at home now that you have more time to cook? So having those personable conversations that have nothing to do with work is going to be important with connecting your team. Another thing that I did is for the last staff meeting, I actually provided gift cards for my team so that they can order their own takeout. As a small business ourselves, and with small businesses as our customers, it was an opportunity for us to even support our local small businesses, our local shops who provide food. So that was a way to not only show that I care about my employees, but that I care about their neighborhood and the restaurateurs that are in their neighborhood. And so I hope they spent their money with some small businesses there. And then the last thing that I would recommend is, have a schedule for performance conversations. don't just assume that you have given clarity with guidelines of projects that you're working on, assignments that you'd like to see your team working on. Make sure that you're having frequent check-ins, at least once a day, once every 2 days, to make sure that you're showing that you care about coaching the employees, giving them feedback, and saying, "Hey, okay, this looks good. Now here's the next directive." So make sure that you're connecting about everything that has to do with work, and even things that don't. Again, just remain human, remain personable. It's okay to connect outside of the ongoing task list.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic way to, keep your employees engaged as well as give them an amazing experience of working with you and just reminding them that, hey, we're still friends even if I'm your leader. So that's
Yeah,
fantastic. So
yeah.
so we're talking about remote workers, and like with the increase in the millennial workforce, with increase in ourselves, so the gig economy is on the rise, and we have gig workers for all sorts of jobs. It's not just delivery boys anymore. It's video, you have video editors, you have sales professionals, you have marketing executives. Everyone wants to be a part of the gig economy. So how do you think, such a huge transition is going to fit in the organizational cultures we have today?
Well, fortunately and unfortunately, I think that many businesses are going to be going to the drawing board and saying, similar to 2008 with the recession that happened then, and saying that buzzword that scares so many people about wanting to do more with less. And so we may be seeing businesses thinking that they can run a leaner operation and then plug in individuals from the gig economy to drive business performance. So that is a for better or for worse conversation. It really just depends on the perspective there. But I really think the gig economy is going to increase because more individuals are going to realize that it benefits them to have additional streams of income. So maybe they work a 9 to 5, but then they are a part of the gig economy doing something as a consultant or a freelancer that can generate money. People will need to replenish savings. People will need to replenish retirement accounts. People may even want to test the waters of entrepreneurship. And so the gig worker, there's no such thing as one type of gig worker. I think people are part of it for many different reasons. Some transitioning into gig work full time, some transitioning to just do it for part time and extra money. But businesses are going to take a really hard look at gig workers and how they can plug in and further accelerate their business growth from a financial perspective, from a business strategy perspective, and all the more reason for gig workers to do what they need to protect themselves in the event of a future pandemic like this.
But how do you think that we can, like keep the gig workers engaged? Like they're not there for a long period of time. So how do you think you can integrate them to the system that you have? Suppose you're a leader and you have gig workers working under you, and you won't be seeing them after a given time frame. So how do you think that you can engage them efficiently?
Well, so I have a few gig workers that work with me on my podcast and some of my marketing efforts. And what works for us is to develop a schedule, develop a rhythm of tasks that are recurring, that we always know are going to happen. And we also have moments where we can check in and provide feedback. And so that way, the gig worker always knows what's expected for the upcoming week, for the upcoming month. And then we have opportunities to connect and either pivot into another direction or provide feedback so that we can continue to moving forward. So I would say if you're looking to include gig workers into your operations, carve out the space for them, not just on a one-off project basis, but for an ongoing recurring type of role or ongoing recurring type of function that supports your business while also remaining compliant with any labor laws.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about employee engagement and experiences for sure. So, how do you think technology can help us in improving the employee engagement of an organization? Do you really think a human capital management software is, helpful in improving the engagement and experience of employees in an organization?
Yes, absolutely. HR tech is pivotal in increasing the employee experience at work because there are two types of people that will utilize HR tech. There, on the one hand, you have the internal customer, which internal or external, being your employee or your candidate or the person that is going through the recruitment process, being able to interact with HR in a way that is fluid, that is responsive, and minimizes error is going to reflect very favorably upon the HR department. And so that is going to be a major win for your employer brand and for your HR department as a whole. If you can say that you are using best in class technology that allows your employees to have fast and efficient interactions with HR and go on about their workday. And then on the other side of that, you have the HR worker who benefits from great HR technology because the scale of what's being asked of an HR employee has radically changed. So there used to be a day where you would put out a job description or post it in a newspaper, and maybe there would be a trickle of resumes that come in through the mail. Now you're seeing jobs getting 100, 200, 1,000 applicants. And how do you sort through all of that? HR technology allows you to set up a system that allows you to see the best fit for your business and not have to focus so much time on reviewing each application. When you bring that inside of the business, we talk about how are you, the HR employee, going to service a team of 100, a team of 1,000, a team of 10,000 when it comes to updating payroll information or rolling out open enrollment. HR tech allows you to set up your infrastructure in a way that makes the transactions more effective and quicker. But then also, likely you're going to be able to glean data from the trends that you're seeing from the technology, and that's going to allow you to forecast or storytell about emerging trends in your business from a people perspective.
Yeah, that's I absolutely agree with you. So we just had this interview with a recruiter named Jackie Clayton, and she was saying the same thing. She's like, there's a organization and they have 2,000 applications for one particular job. How can you manually go through everything and screen it? You need AI, you need machine learning, and you need to take the help and get the right candidates for you. So yeah, that is a very valid point. So talking about HR tech, Joey, legacy software is still prevalent, globally for HR tech. What time range will you see the most of them, replace for a better cycle to begin?
Well, when it comes to legacy technology, uh, the push for innovation in an organization, I can't say that every organization is going to replace legacy tech on the same timeline, but I do believe that there are certain triggers in our industry that cause organizations to take a look at, um, or owners of the legacy technology to take a look at, is this technology best suited for our workforce of today and our workforce of the future? There are certain innovations that happen by way of AI and machining that if you are a legacy technology company and you're not innovating fast enough to create those solutions, what we're seeing is two things happening. We're seeing the one-off HR technology companies providing that particular innovation and plugging into the legacy software. And then we're also seeing upstarts that come along the way and challenge the giants. So we're seeing that in payroll. We're seeing that in recruiting. We're seeing that in a myriad of different industries within HR. So legacy companies need to be paying attention to the innovations that are happening out there and either acquire the companies that are making those innovations or on the front lines of those innovations, or be prepared to pivot. You don't want to be the company that overlooked a trend and it's harder to adapt now that other companies have come in and have made their foot in the market in that area. So legacy companies, don't be the Blockbuster, don't be the Kodak, don't be the company that didn't pivot. You've earned the respect of your customers. So, but you're only as good as your next innovation.
Yeah, I think that is very important for all these companies because to a large extent they determined the culture of an organization. So I think it's very important for them to maintain that, growing with the world's technological innovations. So,
Yeah.
so how important do you think is it to build, an employee brand or say a candidate brand for an emerging company? You work with a lot of small businesses, so uh, can you give us a few insights?
Yes. So building an employee brand is one of the competitive advantages that will help you stand out when it comes to identifying and attracting the right candidates for your business. And not only attracting the right candidates for your business, but also reinforcing the value for the employees that are already on your team. Employer brand is not just about your ability to go out and attract new people, but it's reinforcing the value of, hey, here's our mission, here's our values, here's the truth of what it means to work at our business, and that resonating with your current team. When we look at what the coronavirus is doing in the marketplace, from a talent perspective, there is a need for businesses to really build their employer brand because there are companies that are hiring that may be in a less vulnerable position. And if you're not doing your best to retain the people that you want to retain, who's to say that they won't go and work for those companies that are actively hiring and perhaps in a less vulnerable position? So employer brand is one of the competitive advantages that an emerging company can have, and it's going to set you apart, and it's going to make your employees your biggest advocates, and they're going to be your biggest referral source because they will be able to show the authenticity of what it means to work at your company.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. That is so true. You need the face of your employees to be there, to be out there. So that's fantastic. So Joey, coming to the conclusion to wrap it up, the final question. If you have any important, last sound bites to leave our viewers.
Yeah, well, Samita, again, I just want to thank you for having me on the show. And I love talking about innovation for small businesses and large businesses. We have at Jumpstart some resources for people that are looking to navigate the coronavirus. If you have a U.S. presence, if you're a U.S. business, on our website, there is a training section. So it's courses.jumpstart-hr.com. And all of our coronavirus related material is free. We couldn't charge you for needing to figure out how to protect your business through this time. And also, I love having these conversations on my podcast, Business, Life, and Coffee. So, Samitha, I'd love to have you on my show sometime where we can talk about talent. And I just appreciate every listener who's going to listen to this podcast and take away some nugget or value that can help their team or help them become a better leader. So I'm just full of gratitude right now.
It's a pleasure to have you, Joey, and I enjoyed the conversation thoroughly also. And, like you said, you love talking about innovation. I am a big HR enthusiast, and talking to you about all of these things, it really warms my heart, and I'm so happy. So thank you so much for coming to our series and enriching us with a lot of knowledge. And we are very sure our viewers are going to gain a lot of new perspectives from this interview. Thank you so much for coming.
My
Yes.
pleasure.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.